All right. It looks like we are live. Hello. Thank you for joining me. How is everyone today? Very nice to see you. Thank you for joining me here on the Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube channel. Pardon me as I'm... hey, Dave Edwards, what's happening? Nice to see you, Joe and Nathan. And it's great to be back here on a Friday. So today we are going to be talking about how Premiere Pro, Audition, After Effects, and AME, also known as Adobe Media Encoder, all integrate together. And you're going to see a lot of dynamic linking, which is a technology that we've had for a long time that continues to improve, get better, get faster, more robust. And of course, I'm not going to be able to show you every single possible way that these things are going to integrate in a short amount of time, but I'm going to try and show you all the necessary ones. And then, hopefully you'll go back, and if you're not already a CC user, download the apps and try and start using them together. Hello, Mungong. Hello, Simon. Demetris. Leave an impression. Very nice. Robert, how you doing from Slovenia? Oh, we got Austria. Yeah, one of the nice things we started doing is tell us where you're from in the chat. We'd love to see where our audiences are coming from. So give me a shout there. Let me see. You are there. You are there. Motivila Studio. SAS Front, hi. Okay. So while that stuff starts coming in, what's up, Claudia? Let me go ahead and switch over to my desktop. We're going to get right started here. We're going to get right started. Okay, that's a good start. We're going to get started right away. And sort of Premiere Pro for me is a hub. Hey, Lithuania, nice. What's up, Brooklyn? Wanda Leon, that's like the best name ever, dude. I love it. Netherlands, excellent. Bangladesh, oh, fantastic. Poland, wonder. Oh, Matt Mips, hey, what's up? Florida, a couple people from Poland, very nice. Dallas, Texas, representing. Cleveland, Miami, all right. Croatia, Greece, UK, love it. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so we're going to start, and as people continue to file in, Turkey, Nigeria, Morocco, what a fantastic audience. We're going to start with Premiere Pro, and Premiere Pro is kind of the hub because it's from Premiere where you can dynamically link into After Effects, into Audition, go into Media Encoder, and subsequently those apps can also feed things back into Premiere as well. So I like to sort of start here. What's up, Brazil? Denver, Norway, NYC, Planet Earth, very, very good. Vancouver, Romania, very nice. So the first thing I want to do is talk about one of the sort of common ways that you would leverage dynamic link or a non-render workflow, which allows you to bring After Effects compositions into Premiere Pro directly and keep them live. And the benefit of that is that, again, you don't have to render until the very end. You can always make changes, and you can always go back and forth between the two apps and use them in tandem. Now, this is something we've done for many, many versions already. To be honest, with each new version, each new CC, it just gets better. It gets more robust. You can do more. It can handle more. The performance is better. I know some people have experienced this in the past, and Pedro from Mars, very nice. Lucky you. And, maybe the performance wasn't what you wanted it to be. Well, it continues to get better and better, but the reality is that we are truly the only suite family of video applications that allow you to really work in this non-render environment kind of all the way through the process. There's always going to be caveats. There's always going to be little things, and I'm sure someone's going, that's nonsense. You got to render a Yeah, sometimes you do. But this is just going to show you how all these things work together. So this is a piece of content. I showed some of this maybe on a previous stream from a little mini documentary that I'm shooting about synths and video games circa 1981. And in this particular shot right here where I've got a nice little 2K matte applied, I wanted to fly in some animated text. Now, while you can animate text in Premiere Pro, of course, a little more ideal, and you're going to just get sort of typically better looking and certainly more creative looking animated text coming from After Effects. So this is the scene. I'm going to play back a little bit of this here. Here's the scene where I want to sort of fly that stuff in. Let me wind this back a bit and play this for you here. All right. So we've got this little like hard light transition. The matte comes in, and right here, right in this section right here, this is where I want to insert my text animation. My text animation, which, hey, what's up, Memphis? Drinking beer and watching Jason. I can't think of anything better to do. That sounds like a great idea. The text animation, of course, was created here in After Effects. Oh, and here, let me change my, I've got different screens for all the apps so that you can see all the things going on here. All right, so if I just go ahead and play this back in After Effects, okay, you can see that this animation is already live here inside of AE. Okay, and I've done a little preview, so we've got all those frames cached. And got a little bit of wiggle on there. I've got some motion blur, and I talked about this last week on one of the After Effects streams on After Effects Facebook page about leveraging motion blur and such on text animation. Okay, and we want to bring this into Premiere Pro. So there's many different ways that you can do that. Now, if you've already done your animation, you're in Premiere, you kind of don't want to get out of the zone, you want to work directly from Premiere Pro, stay in Premiere Pro, be in Premiere Pro, live in Premiere Pro, you can do just that. Okay, now hold on just one second here. I just want to see, what is this? Okay, this is something else. Okay, so from the File menu, up at the top here, you'll see that you have a Dynamic Link menu. And one of the things you'll see is that you can import an After Effects comp directly. So you can import it. You're looking for the AEP file, because again, this is the After Effects comp. It's actually the project, and then you can choose which comps you want to bring in. This is a very eloquent way to do that. It's going to pull up a separate dialog for you. In fact, I can go ahead and show that to you. And if you know where your content is, you can navigate to it. Again, we can find the drive here and find that particular piece. So here, I think it's actually on a different drive. Let me just navigate there. I wasn't actually going to import it this way. Just trying to show you sort of how you can use the menu item here. Oh, here we go. I was already there. So like I could choose one of these After Effects projects, okay? Give it a second, and then you'll see now it's looking for compositions. I can twirl down all the various comps that I have, and then here is a whole series of different comps. Now I can bring in one comp, or if I hold down my Command key, I can bring in multiple compositions. The point being that I can import these directly, and these will run in the background. Now you don't even have to have After Effects running to have those imported and running in real time with, again, certain caveats on how your playback controls, playback resolutions are set and such. But you can import those. After Effects doesn't even have to be running. So that's one of the amazing things. Now, granted, when you're in After Effects and it is running and you're using, you're doing previews because you're caching frames, those cached frames carry over to Premiere. There's something in After Effects known as Global Performance Cache, which will actually cache certain frames to disk. That's when you see that blue line in the case of some After Effects comps. I might have it in some of these here. Maybe not. Okay, these haven't been played back yet. That's going to indicate that you actually already have cached frames saved to disk. So it behooves you to have it open and running, but you don't have to, and you can use it from the import menu here. Can all of this be applied to 360 footage? So that's a great question, Chance. Now, when you're talking about text and animation and things of that nature, you wouldn't use just standard 2D text in a 360 sequence, but yes, you can dynamic link from, say, a project in After Effects where you're using the Metal Skybox plugin to do your 360 projected text inside the equirectangular sphere. Yes, you can dynamic link into Premiere. Now, when you're talking 360, just, let's be real, performance is going to be, it'll vary depending upon your system. So that's one of the cases where sometimes even making a little proxy of that might just help you if you're continuously editing and making changes, but you can absolutely bring it in, all right? Can you add your setup after the session? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, Pedro, like screens for each app. You're talking about in the broadcast software? Well, I mean, I suppose you could do it live. I wouldn't necessarily do it live, but sure, why not? Okay. So that's how you bring them in via the import menu. Now, the other option that you have here, and here, I'm going to move into my, all of my various files that I've got brought in here already. Okay. You also have the ability to import via drag and drop. So like you'll see here, I've got 2 of these After Effects projects already in. Now, I want to actually use that Moog text. So I'm going to take that one out. Let's go back to After Effects, and then choosing Moog Text V2, I'm going to select this. Now I'm clicking and dragging it, you can see. Alt-Tab over, and I'm going to drop this inside the project panel. And you can see here I just brought in the After Effects project file that contains that text animation. Double-click on this to bring it into the source monitor, and there we go, just as we saw it inside of After Effects. Again, anything that we do in After Effects will automatically update what we see here because this is actually a live AEP. This is the After Effects project playing live. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's playing unbelievably smooth, even at full quality on his system, he must have a real powerhouse. Well, no, I've got a 2014 MacBook Pro laptop. The big key is that, again, oh, and by the way, you can see it just went blue here. This is telling me that it's now pulling cached frames from disk. So when I actually go into preview, vroom, it's super fast. That's why that's playing so quickly over here. So now that I have this, I want to start this at around 13 frames in. All right, we'll kind of let that wiggle out for a couple seconds here. I can now take this right from the source monitor. Let's drag it down. Oh, and here I should set my targets. I'm just going to drag the video because I don't want to bring in any audio. Drag this over. Wind it back. Now notice in my program monitor here, I'm at quarter res. Okay, oh, and by the way, here, I'll switch back to my Premiere settings here. There we go. All right, quarter res playback, hit it, and there it is. All right. Motion blur, wiggle, real time, live After Effects project, not rendered. Okay, so that's what, hey, St. Croix, US Virgin Islands, very, very nice. When I'm importing an AE project through Dynamic Link, my projects are not listed in order. They are in a random order. Is there a way to change that? Atlanta Ballet. Are you talking about through the import menu here? Is that what you were referring to? Honestly, I've not heard that. That sounds like some kind of like an organizational kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. These appear to be coming in sort of numbered order, but then again, I'm pretty good at numbering my my folders and such. So I'm not sure. I don't see any way within this composition dialog here to change that. But let me look into that for you, all right? Because I think I've actually heard that before. Evil Cerise, what's up? Okay. All right. Okay. So so that's this. Now, again, if After Effects were not already running, and we wanted to go back to the original comp where this thing lived, I can simply right-click here, and I can choose to edit original. And this will do just that. It will actually take me back to that original comp in After Effects. If After Effects isn't running, because again, you can open these and actually run After Effects headlessly in the background, it will then launch After Effects, open up this comp, and take you right to this point in time. Okay? So this is a wonderful workflow for dynamically linking from After Effects, dragging into Premiere Pro, or going to the File menu and importing that way. Now, there's other times where you might want to use that as well, for instance, with something like color corrections, okay? And this is where you can kind of leverage some of the other new effects that we've got in Premiere Pro, specifically something like Lumetri. I'm trying to find a nice clip here where might have some grading on it. I think most of these are actually graded already. Let me go ahead and select this clip. Let's go into our effects controls. Okay, we've got some warp on there. I'm going to find something maybe that isn't warped, but has some color correction. Okay, so we've got some basic correction on here. Maybe I'll actually choose a look for this, and you'll see why in just a moment. Okay, oh, that actually looks pretty cool. Maybe a little more faded film on this. All right, so let's say that I want to do some additional tweaking. Perhaps I want to actually add some animation over top of just this one clip here on the timeline. So I want to send this clip to After Effects and work on it, but when I go back to Premiere Pro, I want to see what I've been doing here. Well, you can do that as well. And you do that by simply right-clicking and saying, Replace with After Effects Composition. And when you do that, let's go ahead and do that. See, it's going to, select a LUT. I don't know why it wants that. Okay. Why is it asking for LUTs? I'm not exactly sure there. Okay, here's our comp now living inside of After Effects. And here I'll change my view for you once again, so I'm not blocking the controls. Oh, because there were two Lumetri colors on there. My bad. Okay, that was dumb. I should have flipped it up in Premiere. In any case, now what you can see is that the Fuji Eterna that I just applied in Premiere is applied here as well. So one of the nice things that we added last year in Premiere Pro and After Effects was having Lumetri supported in both applications. What this means to you as someone who's working between these two apps is now you can actually have color consistency between the applications. So if you were going to, let's say, do some work in Premiere and kind of do your finishing over here, you can absolutely do that. You could go into something like your effects and presets. And let's say you just want to do some real radical crazy stuff to your clip. All right, I'm just going to throw this weird blue wash on top of here. I don't particularly think this looks good. Again, we can kind of play this clip back. Okay. And I've applied some changes. Now remember, we sent this from the Premiere timeline over to After Effects. So when I click back over to Premiere, the change that I just applied is there. Okay? All right, Scott is saying, is there a way I can import my own proxies, like low-quality renders from third-party? Overwriting pages. Okay, that's off topic here, Scott, but yes, you can always import your own proxies by selecting the clip or clips in the project panel inside of Premiere. Oh, I'm sorry. Go into the right-click menu. Where is my... Oh, and I don't have any... Okay, these are not... Oh, sorry, that's just an audio file. Sorry, going to a movie file here. Okay. Proxy and attach proxies. Okay. So yes, you can always attach proxies that you've made and other applications directly to your clips inside of Premiere. All right. Cool. You have not missed too much, Anita. It is just saying, oh, you have missed a lot. No, you have not missed that much. Okay, so again, this is totally live, right? So let's say I go back to this and like, I don't like that. Let's take that off. Or maybe I'm going to use this thing here and let's see, do something to this. Let's change these. I'm going to turn these back on and do something else. Okay, let's make it more green. Just for the point of illustrating that this is live, back over to Premiere, it applies, okay? And again, if I were to wind back here and play this, it plays live as well. Now again, a lot of that has to do with having these frames cached, all right? They weren't even all cached and still it played live at 1/4 res inside of Premiere Pro. You notice that in After Effects, I'm actually working in full because typically if I'm doing color corrections or something, that's better for me, all right? Nice, Mad Mips. Yes, cool. Co-Enterprises Multi. Has the red clip issue with MXF files been resolved? Ah, MXF OP1A. So all I'll say about that is I know the team is very well aware of it. I don't know if some of that may have been remedied in the recent dot release, Co. I'm not entirely certain. If not, it is coming. And apologies for that. I know exactly what you're talking about. If it wasn't in this dot release now, it's coming in the next one, I believe. Mark, is there a camera match feature like there was in SpeedGrade? Not yet. I can tell you, though, that now that we've got Lumetri in both places, this is probably atop the list of like most requested feature. I hear this in every live stream, so we hear you. Believe me, I struggle with this. Trying to match cameras manually is so painful. SpeedGrade did such a great job of it with its, match to current playhead position feature. So I hope we see that soon. I don't have an ETA for you, but it's very much on their radar. Okay, so that was, again, replacing with an After Effects comp to do something cool like this. Now, similarly, and I just wanted to show you one more little bit of that, sometimes you want to go over to After Effects because you have more control, particularly where things like masks are concerned. So many of you will know that we added masking and tracking, and in fact, this is another instance where we took technology from After Effects and put it into Premiere Pro. So here what I did on this particular clip. All right, you can see I've got these guys. We used this a couple years ago. This band is called Ninja Sonic. They're actually from Brooklyn, I believe. Someone in the audience is from Brooklyn. And what I did was I wanted to blur out the logo on his hat over here because we weren't allowed to use that and wherever this was being broadcast. So I simply used a fast blur, applied a fast blur. I then used my free draw Bezier tool to create the mask that you see here. All right. And then tracked the motion forward and very quickly was able to create this to kind of blur out that whole logo. Right? It's not the greatest. Now again, here's sort of the before. And here's the after. By the way, that uninterrupted preview allows us to disable or enable that stuff. So this is another example of where when you've got something like this, maybe I want to tweak that. I mean, you can do the tweaking of the mask in here, and typically what I would do is I would go into 100%, and you can see that you've got enough screen real estate. I mean, I can make this even bigger if I wanted to, and really have a lot of room to kind of freely move around. But, I don't mask too much. You've got mask feathering here, which is obviously very, very useful. This was added after the first version of masking and tracking in Premiere. We've also got mask expansion. You can see that I used that because it wasn't doing such an amazing job of tracking kind of falling off there. I tend to think that actually the After Effects tracker has a couple of more options. So this is an example of where I might start with the mask and the tracking here, but kind of finish it over in After Effects. So again, replace with After Effects comp. The cool thing about this is that, once again, you're going to have the same controls. It'll apply the same fast blur, just like we had in Premiere, okay? But now you've got all the benefits of After Effects, leveraging its tracker and more, and really finessing that. And again, anything now that you do over here, these are once again dynamically linked together. Mad Mips, you were asking if I'm in 32-bit. So no, you'll actually notice that just for the purpose. Actually, well, funny, I didn't even realize. I'm actually in 16-bit, which is all you need to be in AE. Really, to get greater than 8-bit, especially when you're doing your exports. So like for text animations, all these things that we're doing, where we're doing something in AE, flying it back into Premiere. Premiere is always working in this 32-bit float container. So technically, if I were to hold down the Alt key here, I could actually put After Effects into 32-bit. And there may be other reasons for doing that. For me, generally to keep the quality high and to prevent, again, banding and sort of other artifacts that you'd get from having 8-bit being then put into a Premiere timeline, because the second you bring 8-bit content in there and you use like an 8-bit effect, you're no longer really working in 32. It's gonna feel like 8, and your exports are gonna reflect that. So you definitely want to be in 16 for sure if you're kind of working in tandem with these. And you can absolutely be in 32. I don't generally move into 32 because on my particular machine, performance starts to slow down a bit. But I'm shocked to see that it's playing so well even at 16. So that's pretty cool. All right. Oh, nice, Nikoma. Yeah, they are awesome. We were so grateful to have them do the shoot for us and be part of the play campaign. Those guys are great. And I hope we can actually, it would be cool to have them on a live stream. Okay. So that's Dynamic Link. Oh, and one last thing on the Premiere AE side of this. We've got about 20 more minutes. You can also import dynamic links from Premiere into After Effects, okay? So whereas, even though I've been sending to AE, really, it was all going one direction, right? It was actually AE going into the Premiere timeline. You can also import Premiere into After Effects. However, you can't do both at the same time, all right? So it's one direction at a time, okay? So in other words, now I've got like 3 comps from After Effects feeding Premiere. I can't go here and import one of those Premiere Pro sequences. Dynamic Link will not let me do that yet, okay? So it's one direction at a time. To be honest, really for finishing is probably the only reason I'd import a whole Premiere sequence. Otherwise, generally, I'm kind of sending to After Effects, which is creating that from AE into Premiere, or just dragging from AE into Premiere. That's 90% of what I do. You may do something different, but just be aware, you can't go in both directions at the same time. It's one direction at a time. Silas, Premiere Pro is where it's at. Couldn't agree more. What's up, Camilo? All right. Cool. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about audio. Something very close to my heart and something that I love sharing. Okay. So, and actually I think we'll start with our Ninja Sonic guys. All right. So very commonly, now you've got amazing audio tools in Premiere. In fact, in this last release in December, January, whenever that was, Michael Shez, what is happening? In that release, and here I'll go back to my Premiere side here. In that release, we actually introduced quite a few of the Adobe Audition plugins, effects, directly into Premiere. So you have even, dare I say, less reason to go to Audition to do like basic things, kind of basic mixing, equalization, parametric EQ in particular. That was one of the ones we brought over. A lot of the other, some of the reverbs and things. So you've got a whole suite of effects and things that you can use here. You always have, but now we've brought the Audition ones over. They're so elegant. They're so great sounding. But maybe there's an edit that you want to perform on one particular clip. Or maybe there's something that you need to do to this that you just can't do in Premiere, right? So you can send just that clip to Audition, fix it, do whatever, and it will automatically update inside the timeline. And you can do that by right-clicking and choosing Edit Clip in Adobe Audition. So sensing a theme here, right? We can really go back and forth all the time. So let's go ahead and edit this single clip in Audition. And that's just the audio for this clip. So here, let me just play it for you in Premiere first so you know we're working on the same thing. Play your life away. All right, so he's saying play your life away. And maybe we want to, I don't know, add some delay, but we want to do a frequency-based delay using our spectral frequency, which you can't do here. So I sent it over, you just saw that happen, and what that does is a render and replace. So one key thing to remember here is that this is totally non-destructive. So Joe is asking, any plans for VST integration? So Joe, if you're talking about VST audio plugins, VST, VST3, already done. So Premiere Pro is a full VST plugin host now, which is very, very exciting. All right. So, oh, and I just realized you didn't see me do that. So edit clip in Audition. All right, so this is what we're going to do. Oh, Leonardo, that's great news. All right, so we sent the clip over to Audition, edit clip in Audition. Let's click back over here. I'll click my view so it's a little better. All right, very nice. And here's the same clip again. Play life away. Okay, now again, I could go into something like my spectral frequency display here. And let me go ahead and choose my marquee. And let's highlight this and let's just take a listen to this section here. Play life away. All right. And I'm going to increase the amplitude just in those frequencies. All right. So again, this is showing you something that you can't do. Play life away. All right. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to add a little bit of analog delay just on this range. Now, you might do any number of other things. We'll do something else too. Let's just take a quick listen to this. Oh, here, let me wind it back. Play life away. All right, a little bit more, a little more wet signal out of there. Play life away. Make the delay time faster. Play life away. All right, a little longer. Play life away. All right, that's enough. And again, this is only happening in this mid-range. Go ahead and apply that. Let's go back into our waveform view. Let's go ahead and normalize this down. All right, normalize this down to around -3. Go ahead and apply that. Play this back. Play life away. All right, and then I'm just going to do something and just really slam this. So let's go into this IM Pusher Stereo. All right, this is a VST plugin, which is, by the way, also supported in Premiere. Play this back. Play life away. All right, now I've got like a nice, even-keeled, solid brick of audio. I can do a quick amplitude stats on this. We can see it's peaking at -0.6. Let's bring that down around 2 dB or so. Okay, and let's say I'm done with this. Okay, I'm done. Now I want to go back to Premiere. So when I save that, now watch what happens. It's going to happen very quickly. You're probably not even going to see it. When I click back to Premiere, inside the timeline, if you looked at the audio clip, did you see it blink there? Yes, that's because it was in fact replacing it with the edit that you just made. So now when I wind this back and play it, play life away. Play your life away, right? The delay, all the stuff that I just did is there. So that's editing a single clip between the two, all right? Very cool. Now, what if you actually wanted to send, or what if you've been working on a session, what if you've been working on a soundtrack in Audition, and you have your master mix, and your master mix is now living inside your video, which it happens to be here. So again, we're back at my documentary here, my analog doc, all right? And let's just say, I'll make this a little bit louder for you so you can hear it. Take a quick listen here. Okay. And you can see the stereo audio clip. I'll zoom in for you. Down here. So this is version 7 of the stereo mix. And this was all, you're very welcome, Motivila. This was all recorded, of course, in Audition. So now what I want to do is, I don't just want to edit this clip, right? Like I could edit this over in Audition if I were going to master this, apply some mastering compression, something of that nature. But instead, actually, I want to go back to the original session that had all the elements and do a remix. There's actually some vocals and things in here which I might want, which I'm not hearing. So once again, I can right click, but now instead of choosing edit clip, I'm going to choose Edit Original. Now this is going to do two pretty interesting things. Check this out. When I choose Edit Original, it goes over to Audition and it says, well, okay, do you want to open the session that created that file, or do you want to open the waveform editor? So I don't want to open the waveform editor because that's just going to allow me to edit that 2-track stereo file. I want the session, and that is in fact the default. So let's click OK on that. I'll change my screen again. Let me zoom back out here. It's now opening up the session. Quite a lot of tracks in there. So give it a second to do its thing. All right, and this is merely an Edit Original workflow. I'm going to show you a dynamic link workflow in just a moment. This is just telling me that a plugin of mine has changed since the last time I used this. So give it a second, boom, and here we are. Okay, and as I'd been working on this, I actually happened to import Premiere Pro's video via dynamic link into this session as well. And if you don't have a video panel in Audition visible, you can enable it here. You can actually see I've got it docked over here on the side. So if I wind this back and hit play, oh, sorry, hold on, it's still, I've got some of my tracks. This is called freezing or pre-rendering effects. Lots of effects on this session. Now, by the way, I've got this playing back at 1/8 resolution. You're going, the playback from Premiere is crap. No, it's not that. It's just playing back at a lower res. Notice when I stop, just like Premiere Pro's fractional playback resolutions, same process, right? This is just to give me better performance. I stop, sharpens up, okay? So now I can do my mix, and when I want to finish that mix, I can export that mix back to Premiere Pro. Now, if I export it back to Premiere, I have the option to send stems, or I can send the session as mono, stereo, or 5.1. And again, this will continually establish this Edit Original workflow. So I can always go back to where that stereo, mono, or 5.1 master file was created, okay? So this is really cool. And again, like we won't actually mix this here just for time, but I've got a bunch of vocals in here. Here, let's see, what is something over here? Okay, that's an earlier version. It doesn't even have the female vocals that I added. So I'm not going to use that one, all right? But now you can see how that workflow actually works. But let's take it even a step further. All right, so I'm going to close this. I'm not going to save any change back there. Again, export to Premiere Pro would allow me to reinsert that directly into Premiere Pro. Oh, and by the way, it's going to keep the timing in sync. So even if I sent stems back to Premiere Pro, and by stems I mean all of the individual tracks, right? So the vocals, the harmonies, the bass, the drums, the guitars, the whatevers, they would all appear in Premiere if I wanted them to. And because it sees the same time code, it understands Premiere's time code and the sequence time code, everything stays in sync when you send it back. Very, very useful, okay? Nice to start, Camilo. Thank you. Okay, so let's go one step further, though, and talk about sending the entire sequence over to Audition to do your post-production mixing and finishing. Now, this is a workflow that we really just finessed in the last year or so. And a lot of that had to do with a panel called the Essential Sound Panel. And I'm not going to get into that here. I'll show it to you. But basically, now you really have a true finishing workflow between Premiere Pro and Audition, which just makes life a lot easier. And of course, AME is integrated into this as well, Adobe Media Encoder. So this is the actual edit of my 30-second teaser for the series that I started shooting earlier this year called Jace's Travel Places, and this was featured at Max. And you can actually see once again, I've got some lower third graphics here. This is you can see this is actually an AE cap file. So this is that new. Those of you might be familiar. Now I was showing you dynamic link. This is called live text templates. Now I'm actually doing a separate session on the Premiere Pro Facebook page about live text templates. They are effectively using a similar type of dynamic link technology. Okay. And you can always check out some of the Max stuff we did there to see those too. But in any case, what you can see here in this session is that I've got lots of audio. I've got dialogue, I've got music, and perhaps I want to actually do the audio editing on the Audition side. Well, I can do that as well, again, keeping the video live all the while. And to do that, I'm simply going to select the sequence that I'm working in, go up to the Edit menu, and choose Edit in Adobe Audition, whoops, move over so you can see that better, sequence, okay? Sequence. Pull up this dialog over here where it says, okay, give it a name. So we'll call this Levine Amsterdam 30-second YT. Selection, the entire sequence, okay. Video, send through dynamic link. Now you've got two options, none, or export DV preview video. This will actually render out a DV-sized preview. Don't do this. First of all, the render time will be slow for whatever reason. It's DV. It's just not worth it. And to be honest, with the way that you have fractional playback in Audition, it just behooves you to use dynamic link. There's no benefit of doing this anymore. And there's certainly no time benefit because this is going to take a while. This will be virtually seconds. So we'll choose dynamic link. Audio handles, very important for all my video editors out there. Do I want, you want some room on the ends, particularly if I've edited things in the timeline here. Don't just cut them out. I want to be able to actually have some space so you can determine how long the audio handles are. I believe this goes up to 5 seconds. You can choose to render any audio clip effects that you might have, okay? You can send clip volume keyframe metadata. So if in the timeline down below, if I had already sort of faded in, faded out clips in Premiere, those non-destructive fades will appear on the clips in Audition as well. And then you have the ability to open an Audition. So let's go ahead and do that. Click OK. It creates this, it's preparing the sequence data. Oh, it's so fast. Okay, it's now preparing the audio. Wait for us. Have I shown you Levine in Amsterdam before? So, Anita, it was shown, I should say, at Adobe Max. Oh, look at that! I'm getting some garbled video. Just as I told you, don't do that. Blah blah blah. Well, all right. Well, whatever. It's just it's a live demo. These things happen. But the point is, forget that for a second. Non-destructive fades. So I had a crossfade in Premiere. That crossfade now appears in Audition. Now, one of the nice things in Audition is, you've got this visual, draggable crossfade editor. So this is so much more eloquent and elegant. I hate saying it's so much more elegant than Premiere, but it is, right? It's fast, it's visual, it's non-destructive. Like, if I'm doing a lot of crossfading and stuff, this is how I'm going to do it. Especially if there's kind of musical crossfades. This is going to sound more musical. Not that you can't do it in Premiere, you absolutely can. It's certainly capable. But yeah. So yeah, I have shown some of this, and this was shown at Max. And I don't know if I brought up any of this on any of the streams here yet. But again, key is that we have something like, for instance, the dialogue audio here.
Well, hello.
All right. And if I were to double click on this, I could start working on that inside of the waveform view. Uh-oh, something's happening now. And continue working. Now, the key here is that now that I've established this dynamic link, let me just bounce back to Premiere, okay? Because Premiere is dynamically linked into Audition, right? Effectively now, let's say that I were to change the color grading, or if I were going to, do anything to these clips here, it will change the video in Audition. Now, there is one caveat to that, is that the video is a full dynamic link, but the audio clips themselves are not. So if you're going to move stuff around, the video would show reflected as being moved in Audition, but not necessarily the audio. So this is something we're hoping to see in a future revision. So just keep that in mind. It's really meant for finishing, okay? So again, here we are in the waveform view. And
welcome to Jason's Travel Places. I'm Jason Levine.
Okay. And, if I wanted to do some kind of normalize or whatever I wanted to do to this, I could effectively do that here. And again, just kind of keep on working. And keep in mind, all of these things are constantly linked together, all right? It's all in tandem. So that was single clip editing, edit original on a stereo mix, and then sending the entire sequence via edit in Audition sequence from Premiere Pro, preserving any effects that you may have and non-destructive fade handles. Okay. So I want to keep this, I don't want to go over 50 minutes today, friends. We're getting long already. So a couple things I just want to show you. First, Photoshop. Now, Photoshop wasn't even in the title here. Crossfades are your friend. You are so right, Joe. All right. Any VFX tips, Motivila? I'm not sure what you're looking for, my friend. And Mohammed, I am based in Arizona now, although I did live in the Netherlands for quite a few years, and it's truly one of my other homes away from home. Right on the Zeedijk. In the heart of it all for like 5 years. It was fantastic. Okay, Photoshop files. Now this is something, again, unique to Adobe. We are the only NLE that works natively with Photoshop files. You do not have to flatten. You can have layer styles, layer seps up to 10 levels deep. Premiere Pro can see all of that, it will respect all of that, and you can import those files directly. So just to kind of showcase here, if I wanted to bring in a Photoshop file, let's go ahead and import, all right? And let's say I'll bring in this PSD. This is, actually it's from the Play campaign where we were just showing off Ninja Sonic. This is another artist, Jesse Boykins. So we've got a layered Photoshop file, and we wanted to bring in some elements of that. Okay, so when you do that, this is really why this is so cool, and just why I love our workflow with this. Okay, so first of all, you have an option here to bring this in as merge all layers. So that's gonna do just that. It's basically going to do what most apps would make you do via ping or something, is just flatten everything so that you can drop it into the timeline. And maybe sometimes you wanna do that, but maybe you don't. So maybe you have the option here to bring it in as merged layers. So again, it'll bring in any number of layers that you select here, but they'll show up in Premiere just as like one timeline, one clip. Or you have the option to bring in individual layers. So depending upon what you select here, like let's select none. Let's say I just want to bring in this Jesse and this overlay thing here, or maybe this one and that and this. These will now come in as 4 separate layers, all tied to the same original file, mind you, but they'll come in separately. Or by default, I can say, bring this all in as a sequence, and then it adds those 4 layers to a sequence, okay? Now, what's really cool, and let me just show this to you here. Let's say, let's bring them in as individuals for the moment. All right, and you'll see down here, it's gonna bring in all these elements, all right, into this folder. So here's our various Jesse elements. Now this is not going to fit in this edit at all. That's okay. Don't really care for the moment. All right, so we'll bring Jesse in there. And let me just go into my effects controls and just make a quick tweak here just to kind of make it look a little bit better, just so it doesn't drive me nuts. Where are my effects? Let me go into my editing workspace. So many workspaces. All right, motion. Let's just move him around. Whoops, not that. All right, thank you. Cool, all right. I'm just moving Jesse around just to kind of show you that I'm working with this one layer from the Photoshop file. Okay, now again, it appears in the timeline here as this kind of flattened thing. So you might think, well, what's the benefit there? Well, the benefit is, and you can see, well, you can't see down below, but Photoshop is not running, as you can see. If I want to go back and tweak an element of this, now again, I've got the overlays and these other things that were part of that. I can simply right-click on the clip, and once again, I can now edit in Photoshop. And even though this is one layer from that multi-layered Photoshop file, it's going to launch Photoshop for us. It's going to find the original multi-layered PSD. And there it is, all right? And here's everything with all of the layers, right? So you can make changes to this and modify your Photoshop files and import them directly into Premiere. Somebody just asked, can you do this with Illustrator files too? Sadly, no, not yet. Now, to be honest, because you're working in vector, you want to bring those into After Effects. So to do that, the workflow is bring in your AI files into AE and dynamically link into Premiere. That would be the workflow I'd suggest, because again, After Effects understands vector. So we may see that change in the future, but that's the way that you would do that now. Okay, so this is so fantastic. So this is really just having native Photoshop capabilities, in Premiere is really so nice. Okay, so for my last 2 or 3 minutes, and thank you for sticking with me. I run long on these things, but you know, whether you're a beginner or just as a refresher, someone mentioned the other day, there's so much stuff inside these applications, so many things, so many new things all the time, and maybe you missed something. So this is a good opportunity to go back and reference all these things, and we covered a lot. The last part, of course, is Adobe Media Encoder. And this is really where we shine, because it's so cool. You've never seen this good performance from a MacBook for Adobe. Wow, hey, thanks, Vendetta. Well, and like I said, I'm not blowing smoke. You know, this is, by the way, I'm still running Yosemite on this machine. That's a personal choice. But you can see it's a mid-2014. All right, 16 gigs of RAM. Now, I do have the benefit, this was one of the last ones with the NVIDIA GeForce. So the benefit there is that I can take advantage of CUDA GPU acceleration as opposed to OpenCL, which is still good, or Metal if I were using El Capitan or Sierra. But thank you for that. So we want to now export this, right? We're going to export our content, export our timeline. All right. So directly from Premiere, go up to the File menu, and I'm going to choose Export Media, okay? And of course, Premiere Pro will then open up. This is effectively Media Encoder. This is kind of the dialog where you can kind of do all of your settings and publish settings and other things. Set your codecs. If I were going to YouTube, I'd likely choose H.264. For those of you who haven't really investigated here, keep in mind that we've added all sorts of new formats like HEVC. We also support DNxHR. Someone was mentioning MXF OP1A. DCP, so anybody who's going out to, who needs DCP files, we have the plugin built in natively. You've also got native Dolby Digital export in Premiere Pro. So if you're doing Dolby Digital Plus, DDP, that is supported in here as well. So we're just going to go to YouTube. I'll choose my YouTube preset. This was shot in 1080, so I'd probably choose the 1080 preset. Notice that we've also got presets here already for 4K and 720p. All right. Now, what I want to do here, the reason why I opened up this dialog is just briefly to talk about these two buttons, Q and Export. So if we choose Q, this is what I would typically recommend doing. Sorry for the display garble there. That's just because I've got everything running and, didn't really restart before we started here. This is now going to queue that over to the media encoder. Now, the benefit of queuing it to the media encoder, there are several. One is, of course, that this can render in the background, and you'll see it populate here in just a second. It'll render in the background. The other is that you also have a choice as to which renderer you'll be using, whether it's OpenCL, CUDA, or software only, okay? Oh, and you can see it just added it right there. So there's the timeline from Premiere. And again, we could change the preset here. We could change the output file name and all that kind of stuff. And we can even upload directly to YouTube. So that's queuing. And you can have any number of things queued here. In fact, one of the great things of Media Encoder is that you can actually add sources, including After Effects comps and Premiere Pro sequences, without even having the apps running. So a lot of people think, I know with people in After Effects, sort of, do I use the render queue or do I use AME? And I have a separate session on After Effects Facebook page later this month where I talk about that. But the point is, you can do this in the background and let this go and be doing other things, and add those comps and sequences directly. You don't have to go from After Effects and send it to Media Encoder or go from Premiere. You can actually do it from Media Encoder itself. Now, if you don't do that, and you just want to render a little faster, you want to use all of the, everything that you've got in your system, all of your RAM, all of your cores, you can do that. And that is effectively what the export button is for, okay? This is a modal dialog, meaning that you're going to be locked out. You can't go back and keep editing. Probably not going to be able to do much of anything, not even email, because it's using all of your system resources to do a fast export. But that's the key. If you want to do a faster export and kind of get to it, use this here as opposed to queuing. Now, the one other caveat there is that you'll notice there's no choice of GPU acceleration because that's using software only for export, okay? So again, will things look a little different whether you use software or GPU? Yes, sometimes they can and do. It also depends on your bit settings and everything else, if you're using After Effects in conjunction with Premiere, et cetera, et cetera. But the key is that's a faster export, okay? But it's using the software-only render mode. Now, as I mentioned, we sent that over to Media Encoder. From After Effects, same thing. You've got the options here. You can do your export to the render queue, or you can add it to the Media Encoder. So let's say I wanted to just add this one little piece to the Media Encoder. Same thing, I add this comp that's selected over there, and in a moment here you'll see it populate over there. There it is, okay, just showed up, poof, there it is. And it even shows that this is a linked comp from that other project. But the other latest addition, and this is what I'll close with here, is being able to do this directly from Audition. And this is why I mentioned before that this is a finishing workflow, right? So the idea is that you've locked your picture, now you're working on sound, okay? So you do all of your sound. I don't want to have to send it back to Premiere to then send it to Media Encoder. So what you have here now is the ability to export directly to Media Encoder right from within Audition. And this is so great. Now, when you open up this dialog, the reason I pull this up, oh, look, it happens to be, I was actually showing someone, I think on a stream last week about Raptor DCP, going out to a 2K cinema format. What I love about this is that you actually have a whole series of routing options. And when you change those routing options, you can see now this is just a stereo project, but you can change where things are going. Now, if I were to go to something like here, let me choose one of these MXF, oops, not JPEG 2000, although that might actually work. Let me choose this other MXF OP1A. Let's do something like this. Okay. Yeah, so again, you've got your routing matrix, and if you've got something that's actually 5.1, I was looking for one of these that's got a 5.1 output, I can't remember which of them do or not, you'll actually have the same, there you go. You can even say, okay, audio 1 and 2, export that to 1 and 2. Audio track 2, I want that to go to 3 and 4. Track 3, we want that blank, that should be nothing for the broadcaster, that's going to 7 and 8. 4 also, blank, 7 and 8. You get the idea. So you have this very easy routing matrix from Audition before you go to Media Encoder. This is huge because a lot of times routing, particularly when you're working with broadcast formats, it can be a little confusing when you're doing the export, especially going from the Media Encoder side. So if you're finishing your audio here, this is just way eloquent. Just so nice. It's right there. And this is the this is the same dialogue. You just don't have all the video options because it's audio only here. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that if you're using any of our smart render codecs, it's going to render a lot faster. And subsequently, it won't have to re-render the same video again. It's really just going to attach this new audio to that video. So you're not getting any sonic degradation, better quality, just better all around. All right. So that's exporting with Adobe Media Encoder. Now, I didn't have Character Animator. I didn't have my camera set up here to show you that, but it's worth pointing out that you can also directly export from Character Animator to Media Encoder. You don't have to go through and export pings in a wave and then go through After Effects. You can do that directly from there as well. So my friends, we started with Dynamic Link from Premiere to After Effects. We did render and replace After Effects composition from the Premiere timeline. We dragged from After Effects into Premiere. We imported from Premiere. We can import from After Effects. We edited a single clip with Edit in Audition from the Premiere Pro timeline. We then edited via Edit Original an entire multi-track session, and then we used the send sequence from Premiere Pro to send all of your audio elements over to Audition to do your finishing. We created, and I even forgot to mention, you can of course create native Photoshop files. Hold on, just one quick second. It's not just importing Photoshop, it's creating new ones. Now you might think, what's the big deal there? Why do I even care? Well, you care, or you should care, because this is automatically going to create a Photoshop file for you, the correct frame size, frame rate, and pixel aspect ratio. So, if you're working in something where, like red footage, 6K or whatever, that's like 2:1 aspect, you don't have to think about that in Photoshop. You can send it from here. It's going to take the attributes of that sequence and build the correct flavor of Photoshop file for you automatically. All right, and then all of that was sent non-destructively to Adobe Media Encoder, queuing it so that you have it in the background, right, so that you can render, or again in Premiere Pro if you want to use that export button to do a modal-based render where you're kind of locked out of everything, but it's going to be a little bit faster because it's truly using all of the resources of your system to do that export just a little bit faster. All right, cool. Is there going to be a remove grain filter in Premiere soon, Miklav? Well, I can't really speak to that. I can tell you that I know there have been a lot of requests to add new effects and things, and as we've added Lumetri and added all those LUTs, just Premiere having presets in general is kind of new territory for us. If it's not already there, I recommend going to the Premiere Pro forums and talking about. See, maybe it's already on the list. There also is directly from Adobe.com. If you log into your account via single sign-on, there is a way where you can add or request features. So I'd by all means do that. But that's a great one, and thanks for that. All right, everyone, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being with me here today on a Friday of all days. Go and have some fun. Again, my name is Jason Levine. Be sure you can always watch this replay. This will be available immediately after we stop the stream here on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Beetlejace for more video, audio, and motion graphics and things of that nature. And you can also find me on YouTube here, Jason Levine Video. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we will see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.